freshmen, and the back then they would bring up a handful of freshmen at the back end of your freshman year because freshman season would end as far as games earlier, like in October.
Yeah.
They'd bring up a handful, maybe 5 to 6 or 7 freshmen up from the freshman team, the varsity. And it was fun because I actually got to play a little kickoff as a freshman varsity, which was, guys got dinged up and they had some guys go down, and so I got a little bit of taste of it. And he was a great coach. We won the Class C state title that year over Narragansett.
Yeah.
He retires from coaching and went into administration. Very good coach. I was lucky. I played for 3 highly intelligent coaches. Coach Terranova took over. And in the meantime of being the coach, what happened was we were back then, Rhode Island high school football, there was no playoffs like there are now.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the top 2 teams in your division went to the state title game. If you were the 3 seed, like there was no playoff system, you would basically be out.
Oh,
so
really?
we were the 3 seed my sophomore year and just missed the state title game by 1 game,
Wow.
by 1 point. Yeah. And then the next year, what happened was Wesley was looking for a new AD, and they begged him to be the AD, so he became the AD. But after that year, they made him not coach football anymore because he was juggling so many hats. So Coach Terranova stepped down as the head coach after my junior year. And his sons, all 3 of his boys, one was a senior, another freshman, and the other 2 are older. Terranova boys, they were stud running backs, all of them. They were all unbelievable running backs. What's the history? So he's a football guy. I mean, he has 3 unbelievable football boys. And the next coach came was Coach Reed. And Coach Terranova is more of a hardcore, like, we're going to outwork everybody. We're going to lift more weight than anybody. We're just going to be grinders. And it was a good angle for what he brought to the table because it worked. And then Coach Reed came in, and he was much more of a, not that he wasn't into that, but he was much more of a teacher.
Yeah.
So he was like, listen, if you do this block on this set, that defense can't stop this offensive play, and vice versa. So all 3 of the guys brought different, unique techniques that worked. So I had the ability as a player to learn from 3 different guys that were all in the Rhode Island Coaching Hall of Fame in 4 years, which is rare.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So most people would say to me, like, oh, that must have been really disruptive having 3 different head coaches. But the funny thing was they were all really close friends.
Yeah.
So even though when Morano retired from coaching, he would pop in periodically. He would never, like, undercut Coach Terranova. He would always, like, ad lib, always vocally support Coach Terranova and his now being the head coach. So it was like this brotherhood of coaches that all support each other behind the scenes. And that's why this program was very successful back then. It's still successful.
Yeah.
And then Coach Reed was there forever. I mean, he was there for 20-something years.
Yeah, he was there when I was there because I went to Westerly.
So and then they brought in Coach Miranda, who was from Connecticut.
Yeah.
And he was pretty successful. And now it's Coach Storr, which he lives in Westerly, played at Rhodey, teaches in Cranston, really good guy. A little bit different style, but has a lot of experience as a college. He played college football at Rhodey, very good player at Rhodey. Good guy. Yeah. So I've been lucky. They've had good coaches there over the years, really good coaches.
Yeah, Coach Storr was on the podcast earlier.
Good guy.
A couple of weeks ago. Yeah, really good guy. Really cool to talk to him about everything. That episode's actually coming out Monday.
Yeah, Wesley's been blessed to have really good people get that job.
Yeah.
It's been a good. I mean, other places are not as lucky. People, all the people don't realize down there that, like, obviously it's a great place to live, great place to go to school. As a high school kid, a lot of tradition, beautiful building, really cool setup for a stadium. They always fill it. And they always produce good players. So I've always recruited out of Wesley. I mean, I never forget where I came from. We've had Wesley kids everywhere I've coached my whole career.
Yeah.
So
that's really
yeah. I mean, it's funny when I played college football at Salve, Regina, Jimmy Cohen, Liam's dad, I was one of the first Wesley guys there. And while I was there, Coach Cohen always really asked players, like, if you had to bring 1 or 2 kids from your area you came from, your own high school or neighboring high schools, who would you bring in? The first guy I said was, like, Luke Arnold. I'm like, Luke could run like a deer. And he was a couple years behind me. I said, we got to get this kid. This kid can really run.
Yeah.
And so we brought Luke Arnold. He became an academic All-American at Salve. He was a dude for us. That was one kid. Dave Bulldog from Stonington we brought in. Dave was a great player for us. Billy Nicholas, a big tight end for Stonington. We had one kid from the region, from North Stonington originally, Pat Eldridge, who played at St. Bernard's. He was a couple years older than me. And that's kind of the ball got rolling. Greg Morano came to play at Salve. His career was marred by a lot of injuries after his first year, but when he was healthy, he was really good.
Yeah.
He had to battle through a lot of injuries with shoulders and stuff, which it stinks because, before he started having some of those injuries, he was very good. He was on a good path to be a starter, and then the injuries kind of hampered his career, unfortunately.
Oh.
We had a bunch of, a lot of Wesley kids at Salve, Southern New England kids in that area, ECC and Wesley. So it was a nice run, I can tell you that. Then when I became a coach at Salve years ago, I brought in what's his last name? See his face now. There was a lineman from Wesley. I played offensive line. Graduated 02, 03. But we had him. But we always recruit Wesley kids, over the years, and we've had him here at UMass, so it's been nice. And we grabbed a bunch of them.
That's cool. That's
what year did you graduate from Wesley? What year were you there?
I graduated 06.
06?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who would have been there. I think who was your running backs back then? Do you remember?
I think Kyle Smith was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then can't remember who the other one
We
is.
recruited a kid, and his mom lives across the street from my dad, Brian Lynch. He's a veterinarian, Wesley. Big fullback.
This sounds really familiar.
He owns Wesley Animal Hospital.
Oh,
so he went on to Rhodey, but decided not to play football.
Yeah.
He was a very good student, really smart kid, big kid.
Yeah.
And he and too bad because he could have played at that level. He could play at any level, I thought. But he was really put together. But he was also a great student, and so obviously improved being a veterinarian now. But he went to Rhodey, and I forget where he went to vet school after, but he's actually my dog's vet.
No, so that's awesome. That's crazy. Yeah. Small world.
Yeah. It's so funny because he always talks about the times when I recruited him, and I said, well, I wish you came to Salve because you would really help us win even more games. And well, I went to Rhodey and met my wife and decided to get married and be a vet. So we talk football all the time when I bring my dog down there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. Like it's a good place. Wesley's a good place. People that are from there sometimes will complain about it. And I'm like, well, you've been anywhere else? Because I've been recruiting all over the world. I'm going to play right now. You're in a good place.
Yeah, I know. I've lived in a few places, and it's like it's tough. You can't beat being so close to the beach and just the community around here.
Yeah, it's a good place.
Yeah.
All
right. So I've been recording like this, but I still want to do the intro and ask you some questions. If that's cool. I've been enjoying the conversation. On today's podcast, I welcome on a very special guest. He is UMass Dartmouth assistant football coach, Coach Ryan McCormack. How are you, Coach, today?
Good.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing during these Corona times?
Just recruiting, looking at kids, breaking down film, networking, trying to build the next class here and keep the kids on the roster sane because they're chomping the bit to play, obviously. So, we're just kind of sailing the ship and finding the next class of kids and trying to figure out the key kids we want. And, we've offered a couple and see how that plays out. So it's business as usual. Me, it's just kind of navigating the landmine, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough with this whole situation that's going on. I can't imagine what it's like to be a recruiter in your position.
Yeah, it's definitely unique.
It's definitely unique. Coach, before we talk about your career at UMass Dartmouth and your coach career, I want to know, when did you start playing football? How did you get into it? And if there was a position that you really wanted to play?
When I was a kid, so my mom's family is the Bavaro family. Mm-hmm. So I moved to Wesley when I was going into my third grade year. My parents were originally from Massachusetts. And so we had bought the house in Wesley in 84, and they renovated it at the time. And so when I was a little kid, my cousin Mark and my cousin David played at Notre Dame and Syracuse.
Oh, wow.
And they played in the NFL too. So it's on my mom's side of my family. So it's funny because I never got either one of their height, but I got their size. So so when I was a little kid, I was playing soccer and I was very aggressive and slide tackling people. And my parents were like, listen, You're gonna get red card every game. Like you're not playing soccer anymore. So that's kind of how it went. So then transition to football. You know, my whole family's been in football. So literally, that's kind of how it went. And so I started playing youth, and I was okay. I wasn't like a great player. I was an average player in youth, and completely green to it. And I didn't really start to like get a lot better until I got high school and started really lifting
Hmm.
because I wasn't overly tall or overly fast. So really lifting weights was a big piece of the puzzle to get me better and better and better. I kind of really peaked in college. So after I graduated Westerly, I actually didn't go right to Salve right away. I went to CCRI for a year
Did you
because
really?
I kind of messed around my grades. And I wasn't a horrible student, but I wasn't a great student because I was just being lazy. I was being a high school male that was just having fun and doing my thing and playing ball. And, I mean, I didn't fail classes, but I didn't get A's and B's left and right.
Yeah.
But I had the ability to do that. So I remember at the time I was going to CCRI full time, working full time, and at the old Eaton factory, laugh because it's not even there anymore. So,
I know where it is though. I know.
it is on Airport Road.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it was, you'd go in, you work early mornings and weird hours. And, I'm like, this sucks. So at the time, I had to get my grades up. So the only guy that recruited me was Timmy Cohen from Salve.
Yeah.
His son now coaches the LA Rams. And Coach Cohen was like, hey, you got to get your grades up. We really want you here. And he was recruiting 3 Wesley kids from my class. And I was the only one that ended up going at the end. So I went to CCRI first semester and got a 4.0.
Wow.
And so after that semester, I went to admissions, and I never got a 4.0 my entire life. So I took 4 regular freshman level classes. I'm like, all right, I'm all set. So I called Coach Cohen and said, hey, I got a 4.0. He's like, well, bring your transcripts by admissions, and you should be good to go. And so I go to admissions, and they're like, yeah, we think it's a flash in the pan. You need to go back to CCRI.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I go to CCRI, go back to CCRI second semester, get another 4.0. Go to admissions. Again, they say to me, nope, you need to do more school to come here. But I was like really angry. So I went to Coach Cohen's office
Yeah.
and I said, hey, what do you think about this? And he's like, well, you had a really low SAT score. And I said, well, Coach Cohen, the day I took the SAT was like connecting the dots. I just wanted to get out of there because we're playing work that's at noon, and I didn't want to miss the bus.
Yeah.
He laughed. He was like, well, that's probably not a good game plan. I'm like, no, at the time it probably wasn't. But, again, it was about football. So, at that point, I had 28 credits and straight 4.0. And he looked at the class I took, and he said, go back to admission and say, what do you need to take in summer courses, first session, to get admitted? Like, what do you like? So you know exactly what to take. So I go to admissions and I said, listen, what do I need to take? And she's like, well, you need to take a math class. I had gotten all C's in math in high school, and my math SAT was really poor, but it was the second part of the SAT that I rushed through because I barely just filled in dots. I just want to get out of there. So,
Yeah.
so that was the problem. So I didn't take it seriously at all.
Yeah.
So it reflected because it was a horrible math score with math grades. So I looked at my major I was taking at the time, and I only was required to take 1 math course in my career there anyways. And so wait a minute, my whole career going forward, if I get in here, I'd have to take 1 math class the next 3 years, and you're going to base my success here on 1 class?
Yeah.
And so I said, that's kind of foolish. And she's like, well, that's our rule. So she's like, you need to take this math class and something else. I think it was like forensic science. And you need to get good grades in there for us to admit you. So then I pulled up, they had a transfer agreement with CCRI.
Mm-hmm.
They had 30 or more credits. Over a 3.0, they had to admit me into Salve, 1.
Wow.
Then I looked at their scholarship structure. And it said if you had a 3.8 or better with 30 or more credits, they could give you a presidential scholarship for 4 years as long as you got a 3.0 or better. So the presidential scholarship was pretty much covered all the academic fees, not room and board.
Yeah.
So I looked at that and said, oh, really? So I went back. I scheduled a meeting with admissions. I said, this is what was my leverage. my dad's been in the business world forever and said, listen, go in there and this should be your conversation. Go in there and tell that head of admissions that you're going to get another 4.0 and they're going to pay you. You're going to take 4 years on their dime at Salve. And
Yeah.
you're going to play 4 years of football. Or they can take you now 3.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I actually went to see Charlotte for a summer session, got a 4.0, and they paid me that presidential scholarship every year for 4 years.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. It was a crazy story because people were like, you wouldn't just go somewhere else. I'm like, nope. I'm like, you're gonna tell me no. I'm gonna really. Every semester I was there, I got over a 3.8 cum. I made sure when I got my, because she had said, oh, he'll never survive here because my high school transcripts. I walked out of there magna cum laude, being an academic all conference player. I'm like, listen, every semester I sent her a copy of my grades to that admissions counselor.
That's
So,
awesome. But did
yeah.
she respond back to you? Or?
I'll get to that story in a minute. So I played there for 4 years, Coach Cohen.
Yeah.
And had a great career here. I had way more success in college and high school, which is wild. But I kind of grew up. I was like, at that point, I was like lifting like crazy. I was studying my rear off. I was really locked into. Literally, my world was school and football. Like my attitude was like, listen, I'm gonna do this at the umpteenth level of execution and focus. And literally at that point, I already had my fun with parties and stuff. So like when I got to college, like that wasn't something that like wowed me. Some kids get to college and the party and they get sucked into that stuff. I was like, no. If it was a weekday and it wasn't going to help me in school or football related, I wasn't doing it. Those other kids were just like, oh, they go to a Thursday night party. I'm like, nope, I'm going to the gym.
Yeah.
It was if I had a big test Friday, I would be studying from 9 o'clock at night to midnight at 1 a.m.
Wow.
I was on a mission to like literally prove people wrong. So when I was a first year player there, I was like 215. My last year was 247, benching 420 pounds.
Holy crap. That's crazy.
Yeah. I was literally like messing with my diet, you name it. And, people had said rumors like, oh, he must be using steroids or something. But no, I was literally mega all in. If you saw my lifestyle, people were like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
If people would be going out, I'd just be studying. And I'd be like, I'm not getting anything but A's in these classes. Like, because at that point, I'd done my messing around when I was younger, and I'd learned from that because that 1 year at CCRI was brutal. Not because CCRI was brutal, it was because that was the 1 year I couldn't play football. I was out of football for the first time since I was a little kid. I'm like, wait a minute, I can't play now? So that motivated me big time.
Wow.
So in all the years I played for Salve, I was a key person. Coach Cohen always, when we had recruits up, he'd always ask me and only a handful of the kids to host them. And he's like, I want you to figure out what these kids' deals are from a chemistry standpoint. Do these kids fit what we're looking for to win championships? Are these kids going to be locked in, when it matters? Can they curb their other stuff, Sunday through Friday night to be locked in to win, championships in our conference? So if they can't, I need to know because I don't care how athletic they are. If they're not going to be willing to be all in, they need to go somewhere else. That's not what we're about here. So, and so literally he'd haul us in after these visits. He usually visit on Friday or Saturday nights. We'd meet with Coach Cole the next day after breakfast, and he said, hey, I want your analysis. And so we'd go over like pros and cons of kids and outside of just the football stuff, all the back stuff that, what they talk about, what they bring up, are they passionate about football? Are they passionate about school? They really want to be here.
Yeah.
And so that really mattered to him, but it made sense because like we had, 90-something guys that literally would have ran through a wall for him there and wouldn't do the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
We had the full roster of mega-driven people because he put them all together. And so he just knew how to pick and choose the right recruits. What he was doing really was grooming me to be a coach from a recruiting standpoint. I didn't even know at the time.
Wow.
So I was done with undergrad. Going into spring of my senior year, I was done playing at that point because I have eligibility. He offered me the GA job to be his GA, his grad assistant. And at that point, I already was like helping him out, work study wise in the football office with like database stuff and like just helping him set up visits for on campus day visits with kids. you know, 'cause I just wanted the program to continue to be positive. At that point, I wasn't even checking off the job yet. He offered me the job and right away was teaching me everything.
Wow.
And then literally like the minute he hired me, I was still a student technically at that point, but done playing. I was beginning the second semester, and from like mid-January on, he taught me football like I've never. It was like we met multiple hours every day. It was like all in. And at the time, before I accepted the job, I had applied to law schools, did well in the LSTATs, got into a bunch of law schools because I graduated, like I said, magna cum laude.
Yeah.
And my dad made it the best advice ever. He said, "Okay, here's your options. You got grad school for free as a GA, and you got law school." He goes, "Grad school is going to be paid for 100% by football for free." He said, "You can go to law school right now, but what if you hate it after a year and you have a year of law school loans with nothing to show for other than a year of law school? If you go to grad school for free, you can always go to law school after."
Wow.
Good advice.
Yeah, that's really good advice. That's like really smart on your dad.
And you have to do something you love. So I said, "Good point. Makes sense." And he goes, "And it's not going to cost you a dime."
Yeah.
He's like, "You can always go to law school, go do grad school for free and learn a lot." So that's what I did. And it's funny. So when I went to get my master's, I have basically 2 masters from Salve. I have a master's of administration and justice and a master's of international relations, a dual master's. So I did it over 3 years, but they paid me for over 3 years, which is awesome.
That's right.
And then what happened was, though, before that even started, literally 3 months into me basically being hired as a GA, Coach Cohen left. So what happened was his son Liam was going to be a freshman at LaSalle, and LaSalle job had opened up, and he decided to jump and go coach at LaSalle to coach his son.
Wow.
And so at the time, our DC, Arthur Bell, became our head coach. He was elevated to be the head coach, and he retained me because he saw how hard I worked and said, "Listen, I want you on my staff." He's like, "But if I retain you, I now want to teach you how to be a defensive coordinator on top of a recruiting coordinator." So after my 3rd year there, when I was done my master's, I got elevated to the defensive coordinator position. But he had groomed me for that, those 3 years as a GA.
Wow.
So really, I got a lot of really tight-knit tutelage from 2 really high-end guys.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of how it rolled. So now, back to that admissions director, and that woman is not there anymore. She's been gone. So one thing I learned was I could figure out kids from recruiting, learning from Coach Cohen and Coach Bell, what to ask a kid, and my own experiences myself, the question to ask if a kid can make it or not at college. Like the kid might be a little bit like borderline academic admit, but you find out, well, they don't have a 2-parent family and some other things going on at home, that they're in the right environment away from home, they're being successful. Or a kid might have a lower SAT because they rushed through it, but really do have good grades. So at the time, we were doing a really good job recruiting. We were winning a lot of games. And I had a bunch of recruits I really liked, but they had lower SATs. They had good grades.
Yeah.
And they were taking good courses. And I remember I had a meeting with admissions, and I was really fighting for this one kid. And this one kid was a really good player at the time at a high school out of Connecticut. And so I had said to the admissions counselors, I said, "Listen, this person can come in, get in here, because I'm telling you, I know from asking questions that he can be successful here." And so she basically was like, "Well, I don't agree." So what I had done was, because I'm very smart, I had a copy of my high school transcripts, but I took off my name, what high school was. I had a copy of my college transcripts, took off the names, they wouldn't know who it was.
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm telling you right now, I know somebody with that type of grade or better can get it, can make it here if you ask the right questions. Not all of them, only certain ones." But I said, "Let me ask something." I passed around the room copies of my high school transcripts. "This person make it here?" And she ranted, "Oh, this person wouldn't last one day here. They'd fail out of classes. They would be a mess." Da, da, da. And I passed around my college transcripts. I said, "Let me ask something. What would it take to get these type of transcripts?" "Oh, you'd have to be like 3rd in your class." Da, da, da. I said, "Well, guess what? That's not accurate, because the person that those transcripts belong to, you're looking at."
That's crazy.
She
What
quit
was,
a week later.
what's that?
That person quit as the admissions director a week later.
Really?
Left.
Oh my God.
I was not budging. I said, "Listen,
Yeah.
you cannot tell me that's not." You sit there and you got on your pedestal and told me that those things are not possible. I'm living proof it is here.
Yeah.
So that's why I've been done such a good job here at UMass. Now, wind the clocks forward. When I got hired here, our AD is a former Salve coach, Amanda, and our head coach was looking for a new recruiting coordinator, assistant coach. And our AD had gone to our head coach and said, "Hey, I know a guy that's out there, and he's really good. And he was at Salve. This is what he's done. You want him?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I want to meet him." So that's how I got hired here at UMass. It was my history from being at Salve, where they brought me in. And I said, "Listen, I just need control of recruiting. I will help you build this roster with machines. We just have to find the right kid." And so we've really climbed the ladder the last 7 years at UMass. We've gotten way better every year, better players, better students, better players. Our team GPA this year was a 3.35 last year.
Wow.
With 90-something guys. We created a 2-time academical American, 1-time academical American. We had the conference player of the year on offense. We had the number 1 defense in the conference, number 1 offense in the conference. We went 7-3, and we really should have gone undefeated. We lost a quarterback game 6 of the year, and at that point he was ranked number 2 in the country, sung in the rock. So
yeah,
statistically, so we have built the roster very different than when I first got here. And it's not all me. All the coordinators, everybody's involved in recruiting. I'm just more like the main conduit of the game. Like saying, okay, I'll go to the coordinators. Like, what are you looking for body types on offense or defense or specials? Okay, well, we need to, you're looking for this body type. Here's where we can find him.
Yeah.
What are you looking for a person? Like all that stuff. Like what does this ideal player look like that fits this one position? Whether offensive guard or center or quarterback. We're looking for certain types of kids, body type wise, certain types of kids mentally, certain types of kids physically, certain types of kids academically. And so that's how we start building the roster, the board, to find the right kids. And so literally that's what we've done. And over the last 7 years now, we've turned a program that was average to being elite in very quickly, which is a fast turnaround. And so it was brutal when this COVID hit, when we got our fall season canceled, because we were picked to win the conference.
Wow.
We were picked to potentially place a kid in the NFL at the quarterback position. So
really, wow.
Yeah, it's brutal. Our quarterback Stephen Kachik was on draft diamonds, and because we weren't having a season and he was on time to graduate, he jumped and he left to do his last year at Rhodey. Rhodey came to us and said, "Hey," they came to our staff and said, "Hey, we're interested in your quarterback, and we know basically he can't play his last year here because of the COVID stuff. Because conference canceled the fall season.
Yeah.
Would you be objective to us talking to him?" We're like, "No," because obviously he's kind of in a weird situation. Their quarterback had left, the Vito kid, so they were kind of looking for a cue, and they had a bunch of kids in the roster improving, and they knew what our kid could do. They said, "Listen," they saw him throwing too. He was working out with some kids, and they'd seen him somewhere throwing, and they were very wowed by his ability. So they brought him in, so he's there now this fall.
That's crazy.
So, we'll see. There's no guarantees he'll be the guy, but if Sam's going to bet the farm on it, I bet you will be.
Yeah.
6'3", 217. You go watch him on Twitter, his videos. It's impressive. So it's been weird this off season because normally he would have played his senior year and kind of gone on to whatever he does after.
Yeah.
But he's a 3.8 GPA engineering major.
Wow.
He's really smart. So we've had the luxury of having him for the last 4 years. So he's been one of the best players in the league 4 years straight.
Yeah.
We found him at a little Tiverton in Rhode Island. No one knew about him outside of Rhode Island.
That's
no one
crazy.
knew about him. So it's just interesting how that worked out.
Yeah, that's really interesting. How do you create such a niche? How do you how to evaluate players? Is it a keen eye? What does it take to just be such a great recruiter? And
the biggest thing that made me better actually was when I started to go out. So 3 summers ago, about 4 summers ago now, 4 summers ago, the D1 schools all started having these one-day prospect camps. When I was a kid, not that long ago, even 10 years ago or so, they used to have week-long camps. And Division I schools, the FBS schools, the FCS schools realized that was not a really financially smart way to do business. It was better to have more kids up, a one-day thing, do all types of physical type of tests, do almost like a practice type situation, skill stuff to see what the kid can do, film it, and
Yeah.
build their board. Now they're only going to offer, for example, I did many of UConn's camps last summer and summers before. Did Syracuse, did a bunch of schools, roadies, and so those schools are only going to offer a small niche to those kids, but they're all really good football players.
Yeah.
So, I started to learn how big some of these kids could be out there that are going going to Michigan, going to Ohio, so like the top recruits. I got to see them at all these camps. They do the camp tour, I call it. Like they just want to be seen everywhere, and everybody's boards, and that's how their stock builds. So I got to see, I've seen Trevor Lawrence in person when he was younger, coming out of high school. I've seen all those guys like in person. See a guy that big, that athletic, that young, and then you come back to Rhode Island and see some of these kids that aren't quite that. You're like, you don't understand how big the ceiling is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you get to see the landscape, what's out there. And you're like, whoa. So then it kind of changes how you recruit because you're like, okay, now I know what I'm looking for because I know if you're this body type, unless you're lifting this weight and move this fast and this flexibility, you cannot be offered at FBS. It's never happening. So it's interesting. There's guys out there that can lift a bench 375 that run maybe a 5.240 on the offensive line, but they're 6'2", 280. That's too small for FBS, way too small.
Yeah.
And it might be even sometimes too small for FCS, depending on the offense you run. So, depending, at tackle, you're probably not playing tackle at FCS because you're not long enough.
Yeah.
So, we have made a living snagging those borderline kids that think they're Division I clear-cut guys. They don't realize their body type. Now, they might have the physical ability, but their body type isn't long enough or flexible enough to get those offers. They may not be far off. I'm not saying they can't flip there eventually, but the problem is right now, the here and now, they're not quite that yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get passed on. A lot of Division III coaches wouldn't go after that kid. Like, he's going to go Division I.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's not, and here's why.
Yeah.
So I did last summer, for example, was the most amount of camps I ever did. I did 62 days of camps last summer.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's
but the value of that was this. I got to see the landscape.
Yeah.
I got to get all their lists, and I got to figure it. And I would ask them, I said, listen, who are you offering so I can black them off my list so I don't waste my time, don't waste anyone else's time. Who you definitely are? And they said, please don't tell anyone else. They wouldn't. I would keep it very close to the vest. So I would know who they're definitely 1,000% offering. And I said, okay, can you tell me the bubble kids? And I would watch from afar and let it play out. Watch kids drop down recruit boards from high-level schools. And then I could tell that they weren't getting that big-time FBS offer and maybe max a small FCS offer. I would swoop in and snag that kid. Now, because he's a high-level kid for DQ or D3. So, we have a DN from Rhode Island that probably should have been an FCS kid. Sean Reel, he's one of our captains. He's 6'5", 255, playing DN.
Wow.
We had 2 transfers from Bryant, Connor Russ, and Tony Slaughter. The reason they transferred was when Marty Fine left Bryant, it was like some uncertainty, like who's going to be the head coach, what scheme were they going to run, and were they still honoring the scholarships of kids in the roster?
Yeah.
A lot of unknown. So those kids are far enough in their career where I don't want to go into my junior year and not have scholarship money and playing time.
Yeah.
They got on the field for Bryant. Connor's head coach is a friend of mine, head coach from high school, is a friend of mine, reached out to me and said, hey, Connor's trying to figure out if he's going to stay or leave. I said, well, if he's going to leave, he's putting in a release, into the portal.
Yeah.
And then with Tony, we knew Tony's head coach from high school had reached out to us because I heard the rumblings. Hey, got a question for you because I can't talk to Tony directly. Is he going to leave potentially? What is it, 50-50, 50-40? And they said, well, he's probably going to put in his release next week. I said, can you please add us into his transfer portal so we can talk to him legally? So
yeah.
And then we were able to talk to him because we talked to those 2 cats right away.
Yeah.
And so, then got them up for a visit and they're coming to us. Well, they ended up being 2 of our best players because they're actually Division I players that played on the field for Division I.
Yeah.
So we have a bunch of kids on a roster that are like that. We also have our safety Burkhead is an academic All-American. He's a 2-time academic All-American. He's never had anything but a 4.0 here.
Wow.
and he's looking to go to law school. We have a law school here at UMass Law, right in UMass Dartmouth, which is the UMass Law School. So, I said, listen, you can go here to law school, which is the third best law school in Mass, only behind Harvard and BU, ahead of BC
Yeah.
for passing the bar rate. And it's going to cost you only 20-something grand a year without scholarships.
Yeah.
Once the scholarship will drop that number down. So he was like, well, that's pretty advantageous. So that's why we got him as an undergrad, because we sold the fact that you can go to law school right here.
Wow.
So, we have a couple high-end majors that we utilize. The law school thing is big because if you want to go to law school, it's usually very expensive. So, being the only state law school in the state of Mass, it's definitely a marketing tool and a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
So we also at UMass have a medical school. Though the medical school campus is in Worcester. They have their own campus over in Worcester.
Yeah.
But UMass Medical, again, if you have a certain GPA, certain scores, they'll let you in and give you, give you preference over a kid the same numbers from another school outside the UMass system. So that's very advantageous if you want to go to med school, because it's very competitive to get into med school and to get a spot. So we have a couple of kids that are pre-med on our roster, really smart kids. So that really goes a long way.
Yeah.
Bulldog.
Yeah, I can hear him in the back.
My dog is actually funny. Being a Wesley Bulldog, my dog is a bulldog. So
that is really funny. It's small world.
So like literally, that's kind of our niche. You're going to recruit based on both what you're looking for on the field, but also what your academic makeup is.
Yeah.
So, we would have a lot of kids that look at us, but they don't want to. They want to do phys ed. We don't have phys ed. Like, that's not a major we have at UMass. So, I would steer them towards like Rhody or Bridgewater State or Springfield, because they're in New England. Those are the three big phys ed schools.
Yeah.
So, obviously, if hard for them to be a Division I full player at Rhody, because that's obviously another level of football. But if they were good enough, I'd reach out to their staff, say, get your eyes on this kid. He's interested in phys ed. And sometimes they take him, sometimes they wouldn't. But they look at the kid and look at film. And vice versa. Like if there's a kid that's really not a clear-cut D1 kid, they would. So behind the scenes, what people don't realize of college football is a very tight network of guys.
Yeah.
The week of game week, we go on radio silence for playing each other and kind of, throw the haterade on each other. But then after that week, we're right back to normal. It's back to business as usual. Because at the end of the day, if we don't have a major kid wants, I'm not going to lie to the kid and say we have a major if it's not right.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's just kind of how college football recruiting works. Sales, really.
That's interesting.
I mean, we've had kids get here and not like the school for whatever reason. They thought it was going to be different, and they transfer, and vice versa. Though we don't have a lot of people that transfer out, we have actually more people that transfer in.
Really?
I mean, we were ranked last year out of 5,004 institutions in the country, number 218.
Wow.
So really competitive.
Yeah, that is really competitive.
We're the only non-flagship state university on the East Coast that's ranked as high as we are. We're in the same realm like Rhody, UVM, obviously UMass Amherst, our flagship, UConn stores, UNH, UMaine. We're in the same academic category. So schools are ranked in three major categories. You got national ranked, regionally ranked, and NR. NR means they're not ranked, which means they're not very good schools academically, and don't spend a dime going there because you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
They exist, and they have a place for everybody. Most schools will fall in that middle range of the regional ranking, which is not a bad thing. I mean, still good schools, but then there's schools that are in the NR, the national ranking, the top tier, where the tier one national rank. And those are places like obviously all the Ivy League schools are in that category, all the Patriot League schools, BC, Stanford, places like that, Tulane, University of Chicago, the small Ivies and NASCACs are in that ranking. Obviously, most of the flagship institutions like Rhody are in that category, right? And obviously, the high-end privates like Holy Cross because of Patriot League. WPI is a nationally ranked school, as a private school. But you have schools in that national rank category. And I tell people, like, that's a different deal academically. Like, when you're national ranked, that means all your professors are usually published. You've done something that's really big categorically. Like you or I in marine biology had Bob Ballard, who's world-renowned.
Yeah.
Things like that. So like we have a professor that wrote the field manual for the United States government for warfare in the Middle East.
Wow.
Williams, you can look him up. We had another professor just speak on all the coronavirus stuff. He's a biomedical science professor. So, we have people like that, like doing stuff like that,
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, so we're a unique anomaly because we're the only public Division III non-flagship institution that's academically ranked that high.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so we have a really cool niche.
Yeah.
So from recruiting, it's not me just telling them, I can show them in U.S. News World Review,
Yeah.
where we're ranked, and they're like shocked at that. They start showing them comparison analysis of other schools. And I said, oh, by the way, we give proximity tuition all in New England, which basically is, when I first got here, they asked me, what was the biggest thing with Salve to get kids? They said, well, back then they gave out a lot of money. And I said, money is very important to parents in college. And so they said, well, we can't give out athletic scholarships just for athletes because of NCAA rules. What do we do? I said, well, every kid wants to go to Rhodey or Rick. They want other options. Every other option in Rhode Island is a very expensive private school, really, other than Rick. So it said, Rhode Island's kind of a very hotbed of a lot of recruits are looking for somewhere to go, and they can't afford Salve and can't get into Brown, and they're not quite good enough to play year in year out Rhodey. So they got to go. So where's their niche? So we brought in proximity tuition the first year of Rhode Island after my first season at UMass. And the first year we garnered 21 Rhode Island recruits.
Wow.
More than half a class were Rhode Island kids.
Yeah.
2 years later, we made proximity for Connecticut, because Connecticut's the second best public school system in the country academically, really good football, really good families. Literally, Connecticut is no farther than going to Springfield, Mass, in the state of Mass.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense geographically. So we started that, and then now we have total right now, between Rhode Island and Connecticut, wind the clock before, we have 41 kids on our roster in those two states combined. And then they extended it to the rest of New England because it just made sense. But it's only about 4,000 change more than in-state, roughly. So, which is great because it's not that much more.
Yeah.
Rhode Island can come to our place. We're in roughly about $1,000 cost what Rhodey is in the state for Rhode Island kid at UMass.
Wow.
So it's comparable within reason.
Yeah.
We give out pretty aggressive financial aid packages for our students. So the nice thing about that is that it becomes very affordable. When we get to the end of the line with a recruit, there were many times some of these private schools that give out partials, for example, there's some privates in FCS that cost like $70,000 a year. And they might give a kid a $10,000 football scholarship, let's say. Then they give them like $30,000, $20,000 in other money, but they still have to come up with almost 30 to go there.
Wow.
We're starting for Rhode Island kid at 32, 33. We've gotten that kid down to like single digits or teens out of pocket. Wow. Last time I checked, if you're paying $9,000 to us or 30 something to somewhere else, where are you going? So
makes sense.
I tell the kids, like, I don't care if they call it a football scholarship, whatever, that partial scholarship.
Yeah.
$20,000 cheaper, $20,000 cheaper a year.
Helps you out big time. That's too long.
So, being a good academic school like we are, we make a lot of headway in recruiting. So, and we're in a good strategic area. Like, we're 35 minutes from Providence, door to door.
Yeah.
We're an hour from Boston. We're 2 hours from Hartford. We're 3 miles from Horseneck Beach. Take a left out of our campus, take another left, go straight to the beach.
Yeah, yeah.
The first beach heading into the Cape. And then Dartmouth is kind of like Warwick, where you have Route 6 with a bunch of businesses. We're a self-contained campus, like Rhodey is, but get off campus, and we have like a ton of restaurants like Warwick does on Route 6.
Yeah.
We have this rural campus kind of tucked away, but less than half a mile away is Route 6, with a mall and the movie theater. So we get the best of both worlds. People want rural campuses. We're on 780 acres of land.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat. So, those help, with my recruiting, because obviously when I was looking to go to other schools, I was looking at, I told people, like, be careful where you go because certain places are a hard sell.
Yeah.
I give the guys at UMaine a lot of credit. That's not an easy sell.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's not an easy sell. So I thought they trust the name. I know the guys who are at Maine Maritime. Maine Maritime just shut down the program up in Castine, Maine, because they were having a very hard time getting kids.
Really?
Castine, Maine, yeah. last season, we don't play them, but they're in a different conference. They were in Salve's conference, the CCC. They ended the year last year with 50 kids in the roster, which is very low for college.
Holy crap! Yeah, that's really
Yeah, we ended the year with almost like 90 some. So
yeah,
it's
that's
a difference.
yeah.
So literally, and they didn't win a game. I think that they saw the writing on the wall that they weren't going to be able to build it because Mass Maritime's gotten a lot better as a school and as a football program. They're in our conference. They do the same type of academic niche, being a maritime school. You have SUNY Maritime down in New York, over near the Throgs Neck Bridge, which is a nice place. So there's other schools that do that niche that aren't way up in Maine, hidden away. So so there's other options that are pretty comparable cost wise. But I think that's what really kind of drove their football program off having it, because with COVID now here, they're financially strapped. So it's tough. I feel bad because the head coach is a good guy and he's good friends with our head coach. So I don't know what he's going to do, but it really stinks not having a program. He was there for, I think, almost 20 years.
Wow, that's sad. It's a sad way to go out too. Like
and he was a very successful coach when he was in his earlier years there and other places before he got there.
Yeah.
Just the COVID thing kind of threw a real curveball in everybody's year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, for example, Rhodey, knowing what they brought in over there, they brought in the best class in their league other than James Madison, and which is impressive. But it's a good sell because you're near the beach and it's a pretty place, and so they kind of really quickly changed a lot of things. They've done well in a short span of time.
Yeah.
I think they were on pace to have a really good year, and then this COVID thing hit and kind of like the monkey wrench in that.
Yeah.
And then, I know it caused a couple of kids to leave their roster, and nothing they could have done to stop it because they didn't do anything wrong. It was just the COVID thing, getting kids trying to get on rosters because they're playing.
Yeah.
NCAA today, for example, did two very interesting things. One, they said if you jump mid-year in Division I and you're on a scholarship, you can't play right away.
Really?
So the people stop roster jumping. That's happening a lot.
Yeah.
Second thing, they did was they extended the dead period to January 1st for FBS and FCS. I think the reason they did that was to also not tie people's hands, or they're trying to like make it uniform across the board.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that affects the schools, but so it's interesting to say that.
Yeah, it's such a weird time. It's like really weird. I just feel bad for like kids who are like now in high school and stuff like that are like trying to finish out their senior years, trying to play, high school football, and they have like around here and they don't know what's going on. Like,
I mean, I've talked to a lot of people at Wesley that they've been very upset because, some of them even said to me, like, off the record, all we care about is Thanksgiving Day game. It's like the golden.
Yeah, I know. I was actually talking to my dad. I was like, I think that's like not the most important game for this kid. Like, it's important, but like, let's see. Like, I think some of them want to play the season before they.
So I think the biggest. I think that some want to play the season, but there's a lot of that game is such tradition.
Yeah.
Those continuous games in the history of high school football. It's the oldest cross-state rivalry in all of high school football history.
Yeah.
So to not play it is like, they played it during wars, they played it during snowstorms, they play like they've never not. They might have moved it by a day.
Yeah.
They've never not played it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of like wild. I know the guys over at Stonington, they're messaging me, hey, can you write a letter to our governor? We've had Stonington and Wesley kids in roster all my years here.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I don't think Lamont's going to listen to me, but
might as well give it a shot, right?
Yeah. I think I'm low on his totem pole of importance, but I don't think the guys at UConn are very happy when Governor Connecticut wants to put a soccer team at Rensselaer Field for the off season.
Yeah.
I haven't been told this, but I can tell you this is probably not going over real well.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Hey, we're not gonna play football. We're gonna put a soccer team in your stadium.
Yeah.
So that makes it used. I think it's a Canadian soccer team or something. I don't know.
Oh, really? That's
it's in the media.
That's gonna not be flying well.
No.
Yeah, it's tough, man. But it is what it is. Hopefully, we can all kind of get through it together and everything like that. We got one more question, and we'll just wrap it up because this has been awesome. This has been, great. I gotta have you back on again, and because like I'm learning so much just from listening to you tell me things, and like
I actually watched your podcast with Coach Murph from Rhodey, and he was really good.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy.
Yeah, that was a really good podcast. He has a good history and knows a lot of good people in the industry. So
Yeah, he's super personable, and like it was like really cool. Like I feel like you guys, I've been really lucky because with all the coaches, I feel like you guys have been really quick to respond back to me about coming on the show and all that stuff. So it means a lot to me. So it's awesome to have you guys on the show.
I think the biggest thing is people don't realize, like they think like, see these guys on TV at even the FBS level, and they're regular people like me or you. They're
Yeah,
just on TV. I mean, they're obviously they're very busy, but they're regular people. They just really good what to do.
yeah, exactly. They're just I think I caught him at the right time with everything going on. It's like easy. I think it makes it a lot easier for people to get a hold of people and like have these conversations with them, and
Yeah, of course.
not as busy. But all right, last question: who's your favorite NFL team?
I'm a Pats fan. So my grandfather, on my mom's side, had season tickets when early '70s when they were really bad.
Yeah.
And we used to joke around and say, "There's better fights in the stands or on the field." So, and my grandfather had passed away before they won their first title. But yeah, so it's funny because in my family, my family was both Pats and Giants fans. So my
Yeah.
cousin Mark played for the Giants and in the '80s and early '90s, and so my grandfather used to say the stories. He's like, listen, the Giants were like on national TV because back in the day, them and the Jets were the only teams. Probably the Pats at the '60s, they were the only teams in the Northeast that you really watched. And then obviously the Pats came in the early '60s and gained notoriety, but they were kind of like the bridesmaid and the Giants for the bride to speak back in the day. So that's the two teams we'd root for. It's funny that they ended up playing each other in 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm a Pats fan first, but having to get to watch my cousin Mark play for the Giants and win 2 Super Bowls, the Giants is pretty cool.
That's really cool.
He had some great stories about Bill Parcells and Belichick because they were both, Bill was the head coach, the Bill was the DC.
Yeah.
They were very smart guys, and he had good stories, and it was interesting. Just hearing those stories kind of make you kind of learn, like, oh, this worked, but this didn't work, and this is why this worked. It's good to learn about the stories, figure out why people did business the way they did, and how you can use some of that knowledge inadvertently in my own coaching career. So the first thing that he said was, even though Bill Parcells was very tough on the players, he always cared about them.
Yeah.
And Parcells said, I remember him saying this to Mark, and Mark said this to me. He's like, you can't be tough on players unless they know you care about them. So that's pretty powerful when you think about it.
Yeah, that is. That really is. That's like
another thing he said that Parcells used to always preach is that you can't just motivate and you can't just discipline. You have to have balance in that combination.
Yeah.
And so that's true in life and business. Like if you're motivational but you're not disciplined, you're all over the map.
Yeah.
If you're disciplined and you're not motivational, you come across as a dictator and not empowering people. So if they're really disciplined but motivated, that means they're really locked in, but then they produce. So it's really valuable. So I really learned from that. It's funny because our head coach at Salve, was very much like Parcells. He'd bust your chops. He was really smart.
Yeah.
And he'd do anything for you as long as you toed the line.
Wow.
And to this day, if I call Coach Cohen tomorrow about something, hey, I need a letter of recommendation, or hey, how do you defend this, or how do you attack this? He'd be like, I'll draw it up for you. I'll send it to you. So, and now his son's coaching with the LA Rams. Let me give you a funny story. So when I was playing at Salve, this is how I knew Liam Cohen would be a big time guy in football.
Yeah.
Son. When he was 11 years old, I remember when I was a freshman at Salve, and I was, defense met in one room for films, offense met in another. He used to get dropped off every day by his mom after school. He was like a young middle school kid, and he would end up in the offensive room with a notebook, and he would be like a machine, like a college student. He would draw every little thing about like designing plays and going over stuff, like he was like 21 years old.
Holy crap!
And most kids that age don't have the attention to detail, and he was like a machine. He had better than have kids in the offensive room. We were a good football team. So and he got better, and like as games went on, when he got older, when I was playing there, and he was getting older playing youth, he knew football.
Yeah.
Like in games, he'd see a coverage and be like, "Oh, you should run this play." And and obviously he was just saying that to himself on the sideline. But I remember being off the field in defense and offense is out there. We're done going over the board. We come on the sideline for we're either going to score or whatever, go back out in D eventually. And he'd be like saying something. He was spot on every single time. Yeah,
Wow.
like, unbelievable.
That's
So
crazy.
then he went on to LaSalle and became, all-state quarterback, Gatorade Player of the Year. Then he went on to UMass Amherst, was one of the best quarterbacks in UMass Amherst history, and then got into coaching and flew up the ladder. I mean, he literally was highly intelligent. Coached at Brown, coached at Rhodey, coached at UMaine. Coached a very short time in the Holy Cross where he got basically snagged by NFL. And had a very good 3-year career already with the Rams and killing it.
Yeah.
And so I guess he gets to work every day with Jared Goff and McVay, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
I knew then that down the line if he kept that focus, he'd be something special. And
Wow.
that sat with me for like all these years. I look back and go, that was when you knew,
Yeah.
that he had it. And so, but he got it from his dad. I mean, he was an only child, and his dad really taught him a lot about football.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
dad was a genius. His dad was one of the best college coaches. And I've met college coaches from Division I, FBS, FCS, got to sat in some of their meetings. He was one of the best ones out there, hands down. He would outcoach team staff like I've never seen. It was like he'd have a curveball they weren't ready for every single time. He could get players to play way above their ability. He could get players that were average and make them look amazing. He'd get players that were barely average and make them look above average. I mean, he just had that ability.
Wow.
Almost like Belichick could grab guys off rosters like, you're a cast off. Come over here and be an all dude. And that's just like he could do that. And some coaches have that ability. They have that ability to produce with nothing and find what the things you do well and just get that one thing you do well and make it mega effective and part of the whole. And so that's what his dad did very well, and that's what his son has done very well in his coaching career. And where he's gone, he's been successful. I mean, year one in the league, they went to the Super Bowl. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's crazy.
And everybody gives them flack because they lost the pass, but it was a tight game. Most of the game.
Yeah, it was a tough game, anyways.
Low scoring game, a defensive battle.
Yeah.
And he said, even a few times I've talked to him since then, even said he really had an appreciation of how smart Belichick was coaching against him. He's like, it was like violent chess. He's like, that guy's a genius. Like, he's always a mentally step ahead of everybody out there.
That's crazy.
And so that's experience. And so literally, he's himself, I know, has gone around, talked to different guys around the league and college and pro football, everywhere to like learn more, to be better, which is smart. Or one day I will guarantee you Liam Cohen will be an OC in the National Football League, if not head coach. So
Yeah, probably.
Could be sooner than later, you'll see.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we could always refer back to this, right?
Yeah. People say, well, how did you know he'd be that good? I said, I'll tell you a story when he was a little kid.
Yeah.
Once you have kids and you realize that age and go,
Yeah.
that's what he was doing every day after school. It's crazy.
That's why I know. It's like I was like trying to think what I was doing at 11 years old. I was like, I think I was just like playing video games or like just outside, like playing like pickup games with my friends. And now
imagine sitting in an hour and 20-minute film meeting and chalkboard meeting, and he's writing stuff down like he's in a master's class. Like,
yeah, I know. I'd be doodling. I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly, and he was like literally, he knew our offense by the time he was 13 years old, like a coach did in college.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah, so when you got to high school, it mentally must have been child's play.
Yeah.
Like your dad becomes your coach, you're gonna run a similar offense we ran at Salve. Now you're gonna be the quarterback running the offense, like the back of your hand. And you've seen college defenses. You're 11 years old, and now you're gonna see high school defenses.
Yeah.
That must have been bananas in games. He wasn't like, "Oh, that's your coverage. I'm running this offense play."
Yeah, we got this. No problem. Yeah, just be able to pick them apart.
And he played like that in high school. He was like physically and mentally eons above her. It wasn't even close. He was a sophomore starting quarterback. Best quarterback in the state as a sophomore.
That's crazy.
He just got better and better. I mean, his senior year, he just ran through people like they weren't even there. It was insane.
Yeah.
That's why he ended up at UMass Amherst on a full ride. So, and he brought UMass Amherst to a FCS national title game. They lost by 7 at the end, close game. But
Wow.
he was the big piece of the puzzle that made them really good.
Yeah.
And so literally, and then now he's in the NFL coaching. So it's neat because I have a bunch of friends now coaching up there. It's or have done internships up there. Willie Edwards, who's at Brown, he was the head coach of Moses Brown. He's a Rhode Island guy from West Warwick originally. He's doing an internship, a paid internship with the LA Rams right now. And he said that's really cool. And that was, a connection he made through Liam, being another Rhode Island guy.
Yeah.
Or Cy, who's now the quarterback's coach with the Browns. So they're kind of struggling a little bit on offense right now after week 1, but that's part of the league. It's tough. I know some guys in the Pats. It's just, so it's really neat. You meet some guys, and football is football, just much more hybrid when you get to that level.
Yeah, definitely.
One of our guys on our staff, Frank Sherman, his brother Mike Sherman, used to be the head coach of the Packers.
That sounds familiar.
So Frank's our facilities coordinator, athletics. He's also on our staff, football, and his brother Mike was head coach of the Packers, associate coach of the Dolphins, coached at Texas A&M. He recruited Johnny Manziel.
Wow.
Left his last year, go back to the NFL.
Yeah.
So it's kind of wild that and he showed us his offensive playbook from the Dolphins. It was wild to see the stuff they did to try to attack the Pats offensively.
Really?
And he had good story. He has good stories.
That's really cool.
But it's just cool to learn from different guys like that.
Yeah.
Meet them and just learn their knowledge and say, hey, how do you do this? That's the one thing about football at the collegiate and NFL level. It's all networking.
Yeah.
If you're willing to learn and you're willing to work, you can be taught anything. The key is you fit the chemistry of the staff and fit with what the deal is. And so there's a lot of guys that made it up. I mean, our former student assistant is at Southern Miss. Our former student assistants, the recruiting coordinator at Merrimack. So we have guys all over the place now that work here that have gone to other places.
That's great.
Cool.
Yeah, I feel like that's with like any sport. I feel like it's like all the connections that you make like at those levels, and like, but it's also that's like cool that like you had mentioned earlier, I think, which I don't think a lot of people realize, is you guys are like a fraternity almost. Like you were saying, like you talk to the roadie guys or you talk to like other coaches, like you guys like talk on like a consistent basis. It's like I don't think a lot of people like realize that like you talk to like other teams and stuff like that. Like
like literally, there was a kid. I referred to them a couple of years ago, and they looked at it and said, "Hey, thanks." Like, and they offered him, and they got him. He's going to start in DNs now. Vice versa. They've been kids that said, "Hey, he's not a Division I kid, but hey, you should really look at this kid."
Yeah.
So obviously, I'm very appreciative of that because, like, hey, and that's just kind of how it goes. Like, I literally got off the phone with another coach from another team before I was talking to you, another college team. We're just talking shop, like, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm like, what is your president saying? Because like all these presidents, they're all appointed by the state. If they're state schools, the states,
yeah,
the Department of Ed, which comes down from the governor, and so like it's some political trickle down. And so the 54 million questions, like where's this going to go, and how far is this going to keep going? So, because if we have another fall like this, it's going to really not help college football. So,
no, definitely not.
So it's just kind of wild time. So we're all talking about the rules and recruiting, and because all the rules come from rules committees, so people vote on that stuff. So trying to get to the people that are on those committees and say, hey, what was your rationale for making this rule? Because you never know how it's going to go. I mean, trying to find out what was the reason you made this decision and why.
Yeah.
So I better understand, like, if we can get the rules changed, like, who do we need to talk to, and like, what do we need to present for data analysis to say this is why we can do this or do that? Because if you just say we should change it, they're going to be like, okay, show me the data.
Yeah.
Show me the rationale why. So, that's how they came up with the early signing period a couple years ago. Signing period used to be February, Division I. And they brought in the early signing period in December because a lot of coaches had asked for it. They said, listen, like they're already done with their first half of their senior year. Some kids want to do a dual thing when they graduate and do first semester of college all at the same time.
Yeah.
An early enrollee. So they said we need an early signing to do that. So that's when that came about, that December signing date, which is, I think, a good thing. A lot of kids wanted to do that and start college spring semester senior year.
Yeah.
Because in football, you only get 4 actual playing seasons other than redshirt years. But think about it, if you play fall, you still have semesters of school you have to give them for football.
Yeah.
If they bring you in spring before your first season, you can still practice. You learn how to be a college student, and you have more time to put classes in your schedule, to manipulate your schedule, to make everything work and graduate on time. So
yeah,
kind of makes sense. So, and so that's why, kids would try to do that. They can, place they commit to.
Yeah.
And it gives them more time to develop as a student athlete. So, get used to being in college, at that point. A lot of kids, second after senior, sometimes they have senioritis, so they kind of get, they're kind of like checked out, So
Yeah. Yeah. I
you
get
really
that.
want to be checked out. You want to be kind of like on to your next thing.
Yeah.
Usually, I think like those kids are checked out because they're mentally they're already where they're going to be, where they want to be.
Yeah.
So might as well get them there. So a bunch of kids when they get FPS offers actually enroll spring semester senior year, and they use some of the courses to meet both their graduation requirements from high school to be graduated and also their college requirements at college. So a lot of FPS schools, big ones, do that. Michigan, Notre Dame, they'll do it. So
Yeah.
which makes sense. And so literally, that's why they made up that rule because they had asked the college coaches what would be the value of doing this. They said, well, this is the value. So, but now with the dead period that lasts until January 1st, how's that going to work? How are you going to have an early sign date? You can't even talk to kids until January 1st.
Yeah.
So kind of crazy. So
It is crazy. It's yeah. It's just so weird. I don't know. It is just such a weird. Hopefully something.
Jeff, where'd you go to school before we get off? Where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to Johnson Wales,
Oh, Daewoo, nice.
and then I went to Southern New Hampshire.
Nice.
Yeah, I played a little volleyball at Johnson Wales University. I actually went to CCRI before that too. I got
CCR is a great vehicle to get to where you need to go. It worked out for me great.
Yeah, I was kind of in like that when I graduated. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I just went to CCRI, got like my general studies to kind of figure it out. Went to JWU, got my bachelor's in sports management, and then Southern New Hampshire, I graduated with my master's. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Great. The Southern New Hampshire must be killing it now because
I don't know
I'm
that
looking
one.
online and that's like everything right now. So like they're like ahead of the curve. So
Yeah, they've been doing it for a
before
while.
years ago, people were like negative with online because it was new. Now it's like really a big thing. It's become like even before COVID, it was getting very big.
Yeah,
Very big. There's people if they're adults, they want to be able to work in their career, and then also do their masters. It's hard to drive from say wherever you're doing, work.
yeah,
So it's easier. You can do it electronically and from the confines of your home.
yeah. I had a
So,
full-time job while I was getting my master's, so like worked out perfectly. Like it was like
yeah,
everything was due Sunday at midnight. I would like do all my homework and have it done hopefully by like Thursday or Friday night, and then have my
yeah,
weekend. But still, if I was like busy at work, I could still do it on a Saturday or Sunday.
yeah. Now there's a bunch of Maroons that coach Wesley. I know they did. I don't know if they're still on staff or not. I don't know who else is on staff at which store, but I know there's a couple Maroons on staff on the football staff.
Yeah, they're all my cousins. We're all
Yeah,
related. Yeah,
good guys.
yeah.
Yeah, so there was I think 2 or 3 Maroons on staff, if I remember correctly.
I think I know. So actually, it's funny because Jimmy Morano is my nephew's grandfather.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Jimmy. So he's very close with Jimmy as well.
He's a good coach.
Yeah. He's a great guy too.
Yeah.
Just getting to know him over the years, and then I think that Coach Store did bring on a couple Maroons or a Hake or something like that, which is related. We're related somehow.
Yeah. Ed's wife is a Marone.
Yep.
She was a really good basketball player at Wesley. She went on to play at Rhodey. She was a very good basketball player.
Sue.
Good athlete.
Yeah.
And then I know Brian Marone went to high school with me. He's the AD at Stonington.
Yep.
Then I think it's his brother is a principal somewhere, or his cousin. So a lot of them are in sports and education.
Yeah. There's like we're all in it. I mean, I was coaching basketball for about 10 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was at Wheeler High School.
Yeah. Yep. In Providence.
North Stonington, over in North
Oh,
Stonington.
Wheeler, no, Stonington. All right.
Yeah. So I was coaching there for a while, and then work kind of gets in the way. So just had to, unfortunately, with the hours, I might be able to get into some volunteer stuff this year with it. But I was also doing I was actually doing some pro basketball skill training down in Dallas.
Nice.
I was working with some guys. Actually, Donald Driver was like my boss.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it was cool to meet him. He was such a nice guy. And then Jason Jones, another guy that played for Green Bay Packers, us too. He got into basketball, and he was like a skills guy too. And then Brian Adams was this other guy that was a huge recruit back in like the late '90s. He was like in the same draft class as like Kobe Bryant. And then so like worked with him. So it was cool. I met like it's kind of like the same thing, like make all these connections. I made all these connections on the basketball end and just like working out with guys and like might be flying out to Seattle with the hang out with some other guys that played in the NBA and like learn skill stuff from them as well too.
Yeah, it's really cool how you just like network and meet people. It's really kind of eye opening.
Yeah.
Um, Literally, people ask me all the time. I'll have high school coaches that want to get into college, and they'll say to me, "Oh, I was offered a volunteer job. Let's say I don't know, like Yale." And I said, "Take it." And they're like, "But it's volunteer." I'm like, "Yeah, that's not the point."
Yeah.
I always say to them, like, "Okay, would you spend $10 to make 100 grand?" Well, of course, that's basically the deal. Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't invest here and now to get to the pinnacle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really the deal. So, and sometimes people don't look at that way. They don't realize how hard it is to get into college athletics and then to stay up here and then build those relationships and be able to work to find and meet people. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's if you have an opportunity like that, take it. Don't like, oh, I got to work with them. Like, listen, you're gonna work your whole life. Like,
Yeah.
I don't ever have a day where I don't like my job. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You're loving life. You're enjoying everything that you're doing. And like,
Yeah, I have people complaining to me all the time, friends of mine from college or when I was growing up about their job. I'm like, you change your job. And they're like, well, it's not that easy. I'm like, it is. Like,
yeah.
'cause I can hear in your voice you're miserable. Like,
Yeah. Go
you
make
know,
yourself happy. Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough way to live your whole life. I mean, I tell people, like, listen, obviously within reason, like, do your passion because it won't be work after a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, people would say to me all the time, like, oh, you really would get up at 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and drive to Syracuse to work at camp? I'm like, yes. And they're like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not. Because I
Yeah.
get to go work with kids that are going to end up playing the NFL in 3, 4 years or, you
Yeah.
know,
That's
and meet all these people and it's kind of neat.
yeah,
You know?
that's your love though. I mean, you're on the field, you're like experiencing that, like being around all those kids and like making all these more connections, networking more than for yourself as well too.
Yeah, and just building a roster off their list. They look at their list, evaluate the kids, and say, okay, here's they fall on these bigger schools lists. Will they fall down the recruit board? Let's see how this plays out. So,
Yeah.
and I caution kids because I'm like, listen, even Division III, Division II athletics, those are elite athletes. I mean, we brought kids in here we were wrong on that got here over the years, and they got here and they were blown away at the level of ability. They thought they'd go on and play Division I. They
Yeah.
could barely play here at all, and they were shocked at, like, I mean, I don't know how many times I've been pulled aside by parents, incoming freshmen here, our check-in day, and they see the upperclassmen walk through, their seniors and juniors. A lot of times moms going, "Hey, coach, can I talk to you?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" "Well, this was Division III." I'm like, "This. These are the biggest people I've ever seen in my entire life." I'm like, "What do you think FBS and NFL's like?"
Yeah, yeah, they're
So,
huge. Yeah.
it's so they don't realize that, like,
Yeah.
sometimes these kids end up being Division I caliber bodies, but it's 3 years, 4 years in.
Yeah, yeah. I just wait
So
boomers or something like that.
I'm like, I tell them, I was like, they lift the same weights they lift at Rhode or BC. They're just
Yeah.
not quite as talented yet. So, and so I guess parents figure that out after. But I
Yeah.
mean, I've had parents come up to me like, these are grown men. I'm like, because they are.
Yeah, yeah, they are. That's why.
Uh,
um,
I mean, I think our bench press record is like 500 pounds for
oh
top
my
bench press
God.
team. That's a lot of weight.
Yeah,
So,
that's a lot
you
of weight.
know,
That
that's
part's gonna be
work. So,
bending.
it's not some jump change. I mean, how many people walk on the earth foot can do that?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly. So
So,
that's heavy weight.
a lot of weight. So, I tell people, like, listen, college football is college football. I always have a phrase, not the 13th grade of high school football, I can tell you that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, a lot of kids can't play up here. They just, if they're undersized, they don't have the work ethic to transform and become a collegiate football player, and they don't have the drive to knock out all the externals to, like, focus their time to become good enough to play up here. So, a lot of commitment. It's not like you can just, like, roll out a ball and play. It's not like that. So,
Yeah,
I mean, even really talented kids, if they don't work, their skills erode and they get surpassed by less talented kids that are willing to work to be better.
yeah,
Um, yeah, there's very few college football players walking on the field just playing. Those days are gone at every level now.
Yeah.
And literally gone. I mean, FBS and FCS, if you don't work out hardcore year round, there's no way you're staying up there.
Yeah.
For every kid that makes it, there's 10 that get caught or get thrown off the roster, get pretty much
Don't make it.
suspended from the program at all levels. I mean, again, up there, if you don't win, you're gone.
Yeah.
I remember when Paul Pasqualoni got fired from Syracuse. I think it was last year at Syracuse. I think it was like 9 and whatever. And they're like, oh, you didn't vie for the national title. They pushed him out. I remember that story. Their cousin David played at Syracuse.
Yeah.
Paul, and I get to meet Paul years later coaching, and he's a really nice guy. And he tells me that story. And when they pushed him out, it was a bunch of dark years in Syracuse and bad football.
Yeah.
They were revolving door coaches. And then they hired Coach Babers, who's there now, who's done a decent job, much better job than the guys after Paul. But it was probably a good 10, 12 years of rough football at Syracuse.
Had like a decent football team, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when Pasqualoni was there, they produced Dwight Freeney, they produced Donovan McNabb, they produced some dudes. So, and then when he was gone, they weren't producing a whole heck of a lot. I mean, the last big guy to make it from there was Jones DN. Played for the Packers now with Arizona.
Oh yeah, Chandler. Yeah.
He was the last big Syracuse recruit that really like blew up and like got drafted and did well.
Yeah.
I think in the last 10 years, they haven't been many.
No.
So, and that's a big deal. Like people don't realize that you push out a good coach for the grass is greener.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So,
no, it doesn't work out always like that.
I mean, it's eye opening to people. They don't realize that.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, I mean, a coach makes a world of a difference for a lot of things and help, like, might not be buying for a championship every year, but like he's still bringing in those good recruits and developing those players. And
yeah, I mean, they're still. I mean, everybody knows Syracuse. They're not a bad program.
Yeah,
they're not at the level like Alabama is right now, but
yeah,
they're working to get up there. I mean, the facilities, some of the top 10 schools in the country are better than NFL facilities, and they're really that nice, and they are. I mean, I've seen and. People say to me, oh, why is so-and-so losing? I said, because their phone budget in Michigan is $4 million a year.
Yeah.
It's the phone budget. So they're like, what? I'm like, you guys don't understand. It's a different world. So, I mean, I remember when I was at Syracuse doing their camp, the coaches said they had a staff of recruiting guys that weren't coaches. All they do was like look at analytics and look at film and grade out kids and
Wow.
all that stuff, and they had a staff between secretaries and everything with 70 other people.
Holy crap. That's crazy.
That's a machine.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So, and so what do you think like Alabama has? Or my buddy's at Southern Miss, and he said, you should see our staffing structure.
That's crazy.
Every position coach has an assistant position coach, they have DAs,
yeah,
control, they have recruiting guys, they have this massive staff.
Yeah,
it's like a business operation at that level.
I was gonna say, sounds like a company at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely not what you think it would be.
Yeah.
A lot of people see that and they're like, really? I'm like, oh yeah, it's definitely a business.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, literally, they get rid of guys fast at that level if you don't produce.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, sounds like.
And not just X's and O's and winning games. Like if you bring in the wrong recruit they offered your area and ends up being a dud, and you put bring commandos over a year or two, you're out the door.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you got to bring in good players. I mean, but my job at the FBS level is really stressful.
Yeah.
Like the guy who was the recruiting coordinator at Southern Miss, who was actually cousins with our student assistant that went there to be a GA, he just got let go last week after week 1.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Now, mind you, years ago, he won a national title at Alabama, Nick Saban, as an assistant.
Holy crap.
He actually won two national titles at Saban, ended up at Southern Miss. 3 years later, he's terminated after week 1.
That's crazy.
Think about like his success record on his resume is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Like, hey, we didn't win game 1 on national TV. Yeah, you got to go.
Yeah, wow, that's
wow.
wow.
They didn't go 9 whatever the rest of the year, and like really, that's how aggressive it is. And they made the head coach step down too. They elevated one of the coordinators, the head coach, interim head coach. They pushed out the director of recruiting, and they pushed out the head coach after week 1.
Wow, that's wild.
Aggressive. Let me tell you.
Really aggressive.
It's like being a manager of a restaurant more of the weekend. and it rains on them, they blame you for the lack of sales.
Yeah.
They get fired before the season starts. Really? Like really?
Yeah, that's
So
nuts.
that's like the equivalency of it. It's kind of like that's a little aggressive.
Yeah, that's really aggressive. I didn't know it was like that cutthroat.
Oh yeah, when they cut guys in the NFL, they make people bring their playbooks, their hard copy playbooks, to their office, to give to the guy taking their job.
Wow.
It's
That's
pretty ruthless.
pretty ruthless.
I mean, you walk down those hard knocks thing. That's actually real. That's
Yeah.
exactly how it goes.
Yeah.
It is a business.
Well, Ryan, this has been awesome. We got to do this again, man, because this has been so much fun talking to you. I've been
Definitely. I mean, I'll tell more guys around the country that I know, or like try to network with you on social media. I think it's good for people to learn like how this all works. Like they're totally clueless.
Yeah, I honestly
Process.
had no idea from my end of everything. Like I'm a football fan, but I think I just learned like the whole ins and outs of everything just by talking to you. Like learned so much more.
Well, I tell people all the time, like, here's the thing, like, you look at, like, everything's like, you automatically have to play Division I to coach in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I tell people, really? I said, the best coach in the NFL currently didn't play Division I athletics. And they're like, who's that? I said, Bill Belichick. He played for Wesleyan.
Oh yeah, that's true.
In Middletown, Connecticut, a small NASCAC school.
Yeah.
And he was he wasn't a superstar player. He was a good player, but he wasn't like an All-American. He was a solid player.
Yeah.
But what he was really highly intelligent and was willing to learn. And his dad coached the NFL and coached at Navy, and really became a student of the game and was willing to learn from everybody.
Yeah.
Really, teaches the game on like a history class.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's the deal with him. But yeah, I mean you can learn from anyone. I mean some of the best coaches learn from other people.
Yeah.
I always tell coach all the time, listen, I'll learn from anyone. I don't care what level you're at. If you got some niche that's really valuable, I'm gonna hunt you down and find out how that works. And
Yeah. That's good. That's awesome, though. That's the best way you got to do it. It's the best way to become better. You learn from other people. You just don't develop it by yourself.
True.
Yeah. All right, Ryan. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Good talk to you. Take care, Jeff. Be safe.
All right. You too, Coach. Take it easy.
All right. Bye-bye.